Hello and welcome to an all-new Marvelcast Explosion Network's hub of all things Marvel, a place to talk about everything MCU and beyond, from Avengers and Defenders to Kingmaker and White King. I'm your host, Ashley Hillblade, the podcast host without fear. Joining me today, Don Black.
I have lots of fears.
Yeah,
Bad
I'm sure you
movies
do.
and bad Marvel TV shows are one of them.
That is one.
But it's not what we're talking about today.
It isn't. Today we're talking about Daredevil, the 2013 series? Or 2015 series. In which Charlie Cox plays Matt Murdocks / Daredevil. We'll also be touching on Defenders, the big Netflix series crossover that happened in 2017.
Really?
Yes, yeah.
2017?
Yep, that's when Defenders was.
Oh, that series was there in the year we started Explosion Network then.
Yeah.
Wild.
So yes, please be aware we'll be freely discussing anything and everything about the plot, themes, and ending of the series. So if you haven't watched it, come back later. That said, let's talk about Daredevil.
When I was a kid, I used to dream what it would be like to live somewhere far away from Hell's Kitchen. But I realized the city was a part of me. It was in my blood. And I would do anything to make it a better place.
Good and evil. Sometimes the difference between the two is a sharp line. Sometimes it's a blur. Sometimes we have to do things outside of the law.
We're gonna make a difference. I know it doesn't feel like it sometimes, but we are.
You're blind, but you see so much.
I hear things.
You know what they call stuff like that? Gifts. I'm gonna train you. Use it.
There are other ways to see.
Created by Drew Goddard, based on Daredevil by Stan Lee and Bill Everett. Showrunners were Stephen S. Knight, Douglas Petrie, Marco Ramirez, and Erik Oleson. Starring Charlie Cox, Deborah and Woll, Elden, Henson, Toby, Leonard, Moore, Vondie, Curtis Hall, Bob Gunton, Ayelet, Zurer, Rosario, Dawson, Vincent D'Onofrio, John Bernthal, Élodie Young, Stephen Ryder, Joanne Whalley, J. Lee, and Wilson Bethel. So this will be a little bit different to our previous discussions, because I've watched all these very recently. I had never seen the series before. Dylan has not gone back and rewatched it. So Dylan, what are your recollections of Daredevil Season 1?
Daredevil Season 1 was a huge, I think, breath of fresh air at the time when it dropped amongst what was at the time becoming sort of you knew what Marvel films looked like. They're very colourful, very, all these comic booky. You sort of had it. We had a palette-y idea of what it looked like in 2015. And I think when this show drops on Netflix, and especially in a world where we already had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as like the one example of a Marvel show, this just comes in and goes, "Nah, we're none of that. We're not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're not like the movies, but we're also not trying to be." It was adult without being ultra over the top adult for the sake of like trying to be like, yeah, there's also like nudity and sex. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't that. It was just a lot more gritty, a lot more realistic. You had all the obviously the fantastic fight choreography, but you had a lot more character depth within the show across all of its characters. It wasn't just Matt Murdock. You had the great supporting cast as well. It was shot really well. Yeah, I just remember like loving the first season, thinking it was fantastic and the start of something new and exciting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first season. I did watch the first 3 episodes, because I did remember specifically that shot of is the scene where Vanessa and the Kingpin met for the first time in front of the painting. I remember seeing that before. and I knew about the whole Whalley fight, episode 2, which is well known and something they've tried to recreate in every Daredevil project they've done all season since. Yeah, really fantastic. Obviously, Charlie Cox is brilliantly cast as Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and from my limited reading of Daredevil comics, he brings a lot of the, all this version of the character is very true to the comic books, whether it's his him being Catholic and being having these conversations about what he's doing and being conflicted with the father at the church and that kind of stuff. I think his whole relationship with Foggy and Karen Page throughout the series is really interesting. I was actually pretty surprised that in this season he revealed he was Daredevil to Foggy, and I think that is a really interesting episode, especially because in the Marvel and in the MCU there aren't many secret identities. That isn't something that is really tackled heavily in the MCU. Yeah, and that kind of those three character dynamic is so core to the series and what they want to do and that kind of stuff. And then you've got Kingpin as the major adversary for the whole season, the big bad. And Vincent D'Onofrio is fantastic as Kingpin. This mob boss who has kind of positioned himself as this secret figure in in New York City, and then kind of is forced into. He's constantly one step ahead of him, which is really well put together and done in a not dumb way. Obviously, we talked about Captain America: Brave New World recently, and there's a very smart character in that. But this is a different planning, I guess, or manipulation of everything. It's done very well and different. So that was really good. Obviously, Rosario Dawson is introduced as a love interest in the night nurse. Obviously, for the plans of using her more in the future, which was pretty solid. Just everything about it is well put together. The production value is really good. Matt's apartment is really well done. I think how they depict how he sees the world, obviously, is different to how it was depicted in Ben Affleck's Daredevil. It's definitely not sonar. It's like he describes it as seeing the world on fire, I guess. With his senses and that kind of stuff. And all that. I love how they retold his origin story with his dad. That kind of stuff. I think, yeah. So many great things that the series did, but it's the core relationships that kind of are most important, I think. So, what are your thoughts on Vincent D'Onofrio?
Oh, fantastic! He's one of the, I think Charlie Cox is great, but I mean, it was Vincent D'Onofrio that I think was the stellar casting choice for this show. Full stop. He does such a that scene where he beats that dude's head in finally with the fucking car.
Yes.
You have, I don't know what episode that is, but you have several episodes of just him being you can tell that there's something brewing in him, but then you finally see him let loose on someone and you get to see the evil within sort of thing.
Absolutely. I will say it was a bit of a shock to me to realize these were all 13 episode seasons. Because
There's
I feel
a reason I didn't want to rewatch them.
But also I feel it's surprising to see that number because Netflix is known for shorter
10,
seasons, 10
whatever.
episodes at the most.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a surprise, but yeah. First season really fantastic. Really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the build up to eventually Kim getting the suit, which looked fantastic. Not to say that the black outfit wasn't great, but it's a suit. Anything else you want to talk about from season 1?
How do you feel about, I guess, the other characters, especially, I think, obviously we talked about the movie last week, so Foggy Nelson in particular.
Oh, he's fantastic. Obviously, a lot more fleshed out and this super happy-go-lucky and obviously the comic relief, I guess, but also can go super serious, like that episode of
Mm.
I think the episode's called Nelson vs. Murdoch. It's their back and forth about what he's doing and his choosing to be Daredevil, and like the position that now he's put down Foggy in, like, was really fantastic. So yeah, I think what's the actor's name again? Elden Henson. Who I best know from the Mighty Ducks films. He's really great. It just adds that little tonal switch that is so key for making everything so dark and gritty and depressing. So, and then Deborah and Woll, she's really great.
Yeah,
very charismatic. Just searching for all the answers and that kind of stuff. Yeah, she's great. I think I was surprised they killed off Ben Urich. She was like a very prominent Marvel character. A journalist at the Daily Bugle for a long period of time.
I mean,
that kind of stuff.
He's one of the main characters. Well, he's like a big supporting character for a lot of
in that first season.
Yeah,
so that's very surprising that he gets killed off, and all that. So, that's really interesting. So yeah, season 1, really good. Then we go on to season 2.
I really have to spell it out for you, Red, huh? I'm disappointed. Listen carefully, okay? Are you listening? Yeah? How about now? You listening? Feel it? You're not a bad guy, Red.
You want to explain that to the orphans and the widows of the men you killed?
That's what you think. I'm just some crazy asshole going around unloading on whoever I want to,
Yeah,
huh?
that's exactly what I think.
That it?
You think you're anything else?
I think that the people I kill need killing. That's what I think.
You left men hanging from meat hooks.
They got off easy, in my opinion.
You shut up a hospital.
Yeah, nobody got hurt or didn't deserve it.
Yeah. What about you, Frank? What happens the day someone decides you deserve it?
Tell you what, they better not miss.
You run around this city like it's your damn shooting gallery.
Yeah, what do you do? What do you do? You act like it's a playground. You beat up the bullies with your fists. You throw them in jail. Everybody calls you a hero, right? And then a month, a week, a day later, they're back on the streets doing the same goddamn thing.
So you just put him in the morgue.
You're goddamn right I do.
You ever doubt yourself, Frank?
Not even for a second.
Really? Really? You never think for 1 second, shit, I just killed a human being.
It's being pretty generous.
A human being who did a lot of stupid shit, maybe even evil, but had one small piece of goodness in him. Maybe just a scrap, Frank, but something. And then you come along and that one tiny flicker of light gets snuffed out forever.
I think you're wrong.
Which part?
All of it. I think there's no good in the filth that I put down. That's what I think.
And how do you know?
I just know. Look around, Red. This city, it stinks. It's a sewer. It stinks and it smells like shit, and I can't get the stink out of my nose. I think that this world, it needs men that are willing to make the hard call. That's what I think. I think you and me are the same. We're the same.
You know it.
Only I do the one thing that you can't. You hit them and they get back up. I hit them and they stay down. It's permanent. I make sure that they don't make it out on the street again. I take pride in that.
Let me ask you this.
What's that?
What about hope?
Oh, fuck.
Come on, Frank.
About Santa Claus? You want to talk about Santa Claus?
I live in the real world, too, and I've seen it.
What have you seen?
Redemption, Frank. It's real. And it's possible. The people you murdered deserve another chance.
What, to kill again, rape again? Is that what
No,
you
Frank,
want?
to try again, Frank. To try. And if you don't get that, there's something broken in you can't fix. And you really are a nut job.
Where he's taking down what's his face? Kingpin. But now the Punisher has appeared as a figure, in Matt Murdocks, in everybody's lives. And also they have to deal with the Hand, Elektra, a character from, the comics, and Matt's ex-lover reappears. It's him dealing with a bunch of ninjas in season 2. Thoughts?
It sounds like you didn't like this one as much.
No, I enjoyed it. But it's the Hand stuff in general is not the most interesting part of stuff in the series of Daredevil.
You're correct, and I think season 2 is the worst of the 3. I'd also say that the first half of the show is the best when it's the Punisher stuff, and then once it like switches over to basically being about Elektra and the Hand for the second half, while I'm trying to remember now, but while like the Punisher's locked up finally or whatever the hell goes on, although he gets his fucking kick ass like obviously prison fight scene as well, which is insane. But yeah, I remember just I don't remember being like fully disappointed, but I definitely remember feeling like the season wasn't as strong as the first one, and I didn't like all the love romance elements. I didn't feel like any of them were done particularly well or notable.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like, all the Punisher stuff is fantastic. John Bernthal, super fantastic as the Punisher. I'm keen to check out the 2 seasons of the Punisher TV series when I get time.
Me too.
Yeah, obviously he's going to show up in the show, so in Born Again, so maybe he gets another season. But yeah, it's such a his performances, they stand out of the season. Yeah, we just kind of dive more into. Obviously, we had Stick introduced in the first season briefly as Matt's mentor. He comes back with the whole, was it conclave or clause? Some C word.
Yeah,
that's up against the hand. And again, we don't know what the hand. Again, this also feels like it's building towards the Defenders, and that's what this was this season with all the hand stuff. And we need to introduce this big bad that all these characters can fight against. So that was less interesting. I enjoyed Elektra. I thought she was good. She was more interesting than the Jennifer Garner version, but that's not saying much. I thought there were some solid action sequences and that kind of stuff, but yeah, just it was a little bit more mixed, and all the mystery around the hand wasn't as engrossing as the mystery around the Punisher and what actually happened to his family and all that kind of stuff. I will say the Kingpin then again makes a fantastic appearance in the season. I think he's only in like 1 or 2 episodes. But maybe 3. But Vincent D'Onofrio again fantastic, and like when he's confronting Matt Murdock and like in that prison cell, like telling him stay away from Vanessa, I'm not going to give you information, and then like kind of manipulating the Punisher to take out the rival in the prison and that kind of stuff. Very, very, very captivating.
Did you like? I also know that the second season they start trying to tie everything more into the universe they're building, and you have the cameo from Carrie Ann Moss's character in one of the episodes. From
I think you towards the very end when like
she's from Jessica Jones, so
yeah, because Foggy goes and works for her law firm.
Yeah.
When everything kind of falls apart with Matt and Foggy, they come to loggerheads and that kind of stuff.
Did you feel like he was missing anything, or?
No, not really.
No.
Yeah, so that was the only reference I can think of.
I think they throw out Luke Cage's name at some point, but
maybe
as a throwaway thing,
that kind of stuff. So, yeah, pretty solid. Obviously, I was surprised when Elektra died at the end. And then also him revealing his Daredevil to Karen Page, I thought it was interesting. And then, we jump into the Defenders.
The Hand is an ancient criminal organization.
Define ancient.
They live forever.
You want to try that again?
They live by a fanatical ideology, and every member is willing to die to protect it.
So they're terrorists?
No, terrorists want the world to know what they're doing. This is something more secret, more evil.
And they're global.
So what do?
Everything.
Including the recruitment of young men in Harlem?
Apparently. Look, they're in New York for a reason, but I don't know why.
What do you mean fanatical ideology?
Sound crazy.
Okay, so what do they want?
Immortality. They want power and influence at every level across the world. And I think they want me.
For your money?
No. I'm the immortal Iron Fist.
Come again?
Sworn protector of Kunlun.
What are you on, lithium?
So who was the woman with the swords?
Look, I'm not sure, but I fought her in Cambodia.
Yeah, and she showed up at my doorstep.
Wait, she's the one that came after your client?
Yeah. Why, do you know her?
No.
I sure knew what she was doing.
Yeah, the hand trains its fighters to be merciless, but whoever she was, man, she was something else.
I'm sorry, this is a mistake. I gotta go.
Hey, where?
I can't be a part of this.
If you ask me, you already are. We need to put it all on the table.
I don't know you, man. I don't owe you anything.
And I don't trust you.
You want to take your hand off my shoulder?
Take off the mask.
You're not gonna like where this is heading.
Try me.
Which, again, I jumped into without watching any of the other series. Which I thought was fine. I think sometimes you just need to jump into these things. It worked out fine. I think the way it was constructed was really well done. The way they decided to like have the interstitials when they're cutting between different characters' stories and that kind of stuff. But again, the hand is like one of the least interesting bad guys around. Although something that brought me great joy is, do you remember what they call the thing that they're after from Kulan?
No fucking clue.
They need to get the substance.
Oh, good. Yeah. What?
So the substance is set in the world of Daredevil. Apparently, it's from a massive dragon. So I don't know. It was really enjoyable to see all these characters kind of bounce off each other and that kind of stuff. I think maybe Iron Fist is the one that was like, felt like I probably needed to watch.
Yeah, because
the
it's all
previous
about
season.
The fucking hand and shit and that. So.
That's also more of the hand stuff and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but
that I would have understood.
And the only good part that came out of that whole series is Jessica Henwick. So
yes, Jessica Henwick is really great. I wish she was in this a little bit more.
There's the only scene I remember from Iron Fist actually liking is she has a fight scene with like a boxing match she's doing, and I just remember thinking, man, this girl's kick ass. And that was before I knew who. I think that would be the first thing I ever saw her in, was that series.
I mean, she was in Game of Thrones. She was one of the Sand Sisters or whatever.
Yeah,
you wouldn't have recognized her.
No, I remember
or noticed.
This is the thing where I was like, oh, that I like this girl, Jessica Henwick. She's good. I don't think I remember thinking. So I don't like this series. I think this was a bad series. I just feel like there's a lot of things and elements and characters I like the Luke Cage. I really enjoyed his first season. I felt like it was just met in this. Jessica Jones, love. Obviously, I'd say that's overall my favorite character from the Netflix runner series. And the first season of Jessica Jones, I still would actually say is better than any season of Daredevil. It's just fantastic television. She I don't think they know how to use her within the story at all. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And then Finn Jones, Iron Fist is terrible. Just completely miscast, and just I don't know why he comes into it all. And then the bounce around the players, and eventually they Sigourney Weaver, I remember just really disliking this as well. They bring back Elektra.
Bring back Elektra. She's a real live.
Yeah, doesn't remember anything.
And then you bring back all these other characters who I assume were in the other shows, and it turns out they're all working for the hand.
Yeah,
like the Madame Gao.
Yeah, she was from
Daredevil.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. I will say I was surprised that Elektra killed Sigourney Weaver at one point. Obviously you'll be building this entire time that her body's riddled with cancer and whatever. So, and then you think that's what's going to kill her or whatever, and then Elektra just murders her, takes over. But yeah, I mean, clearly it was done so they could have a lot of ninjas fighting against our team of heroes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's boring.
It is pretty boring. I think it's interesting where they left the series to end, where it seems like Daredevil gets crushed by the massive building that gets blown up above them.
Doesn't it end with him in a hospital? Or is that a post-credit scene?
It might be, yeah.
I swear it ends up. I'm gonna fucking.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. He's in a hospital bed at the end of the thing. So, still intriguing. So, but everybody kind of assumes he's dead. So,
yeah, the other three characters think he's dead. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus Foggy and Karen. So,
yeah.
Anything else you want to mention about Defenders?
No.
All right, Daredevil season 3.
My Bible.
All right.
I get the hint.
And I get the sense things are complicated with you and the guy upstairs.
No, not at all. If anything, I'd say we finally know where we stand with each other. There is a man from the land of Uz.
Book of Job.
Book of Job. Story of God's perfect servant, Job. He prayed every day at dawn with his knees on the ground, his face in the dirt. Slaughtered 10 goats, one for each of his children, and burned them at the altar in God's honor. Of all God's soldiers, Job, he was the most loyal.
I know the story, Matthew.
Oh, then you know what happens next. God murdered all 10 of his children in cold blood. Scorched every inch of Job's land, lashed at his body till his skin was covered in bloody welts. God rained shit and misery on the life of his most perfect servant, and still, Job would not curse him. You know what I realized? Job was a pussy. You see, that was me, sister. I suffered willingly. I gave my, sweat and blood and skin without complaint because I too believed I was God's soldier. Well, not anymore. I am what I do in the dark now. I bleed only for myself.
Matthew is dealing with, he's kind of recovering. He's staying at the orphanage and then the church that he, grew up in. And is kind of having a crisis of faith. He's mostly talking, he's talking to the father that we've seen over the several seasons, but then also to the nurse, the nun. I don't know what her name is.
Doesn't matter.
It's just like the nun, and then later on, you're like, oh, it's the mum nun. Sister Maggie, that's it. Meanwhile, Fisk has been turned informant for the FBI, and he is manipulating them to allow him to, live in the city. Lives in a big penthouse in the top of a hotel, but is doing his kingpin things again. Behind the scenes. I enjoyed this season. I think it's probably a little bit long and like a little bit, too heavy on the FBI side of things. The thing that I really enjoyed was the crisis of faith element and like Daredevil, like the conversations that he has with Sister Maggie and that kind of stuff, and like, kind to the rehabilitation process. I thought was really interesting and that kind of stuff. I thought the episode that's focused purely on Bullseye's childhood is probably one of the standouts of the season. And like this kid who's clearly a sociopath, has no feelings and like is just, you kind of see all these segments, but from Wilson and Fisk kind of imagining them, I guess, visualizing them from the reports that he's reading and that kind of stuff. Really fascinating, really interesting. Yeah, and then them kind of trying to finally take down Wilson Fisk without killing him, I think is very fascinating, like how it all kind of plays out. Although I wish they'd gotten there a little bit sooner. What are your thoughts on season 3?
I think it's about the second one. I felt like it was way too long. I remember this is the season where I was like, fucking hell, these seems like a drawn out. Like this is where I was really doubting the 13 episodes, I remember. Did they ever call him Bullseye?
No, they never do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think his character's really good. The actor that plays him does a really good job. Apparently he's in the new series, I think.
I believe so. I think we see him in the trailer because the series ends with him. Well, he gets paralyzed because Kingpin like smashes him against the wall. But he gets like surgery, like spinal surgery.
Yeah.
And then you get a close up and his eye looks like a bullseye.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I remember enjoying, much like you, the crisis of faith stuff. Like again, similar to season 2, I felt like it's only 2 stories that happen And the first half of the series was a lot more interesting to me than the back half of the series, where it's all this cover up stuff and whatever goes on. Where it's like, I'll go back to I just don't. Also, by the end, I just found it very weird that I'm like, how does all of this like happen? Like, yes, I'll go back to prison if you don't.
I'll go back to prison if you don't look into Vanessa ordering a hit on somebody.
Yeah, all that. Yeah, I was like, it's weird, but yeah. So I remember thinking it's all right, but to be completely honest, this is a season, if I think back, I probably remember the least of, and I don't ever feel like this season had any standout moments or that at least season 2 had. I think there's overall a better season because I felt like the narrative was better, but I do feel like it missed some of those big like memorable sequences.
Yeah, I'd say so. You know, I mean, there are some cool fights and that kind of stuff. Obviously, the fake Daredevil attacking the New York Post or whatever the newspaper they're working at. That's pretty scary and well put together. Like anything with Bullseye, and like you're seeing him like flinging shit at people, like taking them out with like stuff, like objects just around, and like flinging them so quickly that it's taking it out. I think Matt's plan to get Bullseye to turn against Fisk at the end by revealing that Fisk has killed Julie, and his manipulations against him was really fascinating. The final fight sequence, I think, is pretty good. Like the 3-way fight between Bullseye, Daredevil, and Fisk. But yeah, it leaves it at a very interesting point. Like, obviously, it ends with Foggy and Matt and Karen deciding to come back together, try the lawyer thing together again. But then we also end with Fisk in prison, which, as we know, he is not in when we see him next in Hawkeye, which we'll talk about next week. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what threads they kind of pick up from in this series in the next show. This also explained why Daredevil had to get a suit from across the country in She-Hulk, which we'll talk again next week. Because his suit guy got taken out.
It's so it's funny because I don't think there was ever a point where any of these Netflix shows ever said or did anything that couldn't have fit in the MCU. But that's why they like sat in this like weird place of are they, aren't they? But because of that, when they were like, yeah, let's officially bring it in, then they're trying to like
at the start of the series in like season 1. They're constantly talking about the incidents or whatever.
Let's talk about the incident in New York, but I remember when it was airing, everyone always wanted to know, and people, because of course they did. It was like 2015, height of MCU. Is this canon? Is the big question. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. we got no. Got told no, that's not. So for this, they kept being like, oh, maybe it's not. Maybe some references. Who's to say? So yeah, you watch the first season, and the first time he goes and visits the old mate reporter, and you see that like thing, newspaper clipping, and they're talking about the attack in New York and stuff. You're like, ah, but then they're like,
yeah. I mean, yeah. Any other thoughts on the Netflix Daredevil series?
No, I think it's too long.
Could have used 3 less episodes this season.
At least, yeah.
Is what I'm hearing. Yeah. Yeah. So let us know what you thought of the Netflix Daredevil series. What did you think of Defenders? What are you excited to see pulled in to Daredevil Born Again? Let us know by going.
I'll just quickly. Also, I got this. I just remembered. I got to show. My copy of Daredevil
Director's Cut,
the film, which we talked about last episode, has turned up today. It is fully sealed,
like brand new.
Yeah. What?
Wow.
I just think I'm going to ruin that and open it.
Not anytime soon, though.
Yeah, probably not anytime soon. But I will, at some stage, watch the director's cut, and I'll report back.
Alright. Let us know what you thought by finding us on Blue Sky at explosionnetwork.com or find us on other social media at ExplosionPod. If you want to help us out here at an all-new Marvelcast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. Leave us 5 stars. Anywhere we can leave 5 stars or just tell people about the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, thought it was worth $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosionnetwork.com/supports. Thank you very much for listening. Next week, we'll be talking about Echo and just Daredevil's appearances in the MCU so far. So, check out Echo and join us next time for another all-new Marvelcast.